Do the new people that we have here, Clarissa, Alex, and Sophie, could you guys introduce yourselves for us, please?
All right, I got this. Where's my glasses? Okay. Hi, I'm Clarissa. I'm from Wellesley High School. I'm a senior, and I don't know. Oh, we don't have a question. I like green tea ice cream. Sure.
Yeah, I'm Sophie, also from Wellesley High School. Not gonna turn my camera on right now because I'm eating a smoothie and I'm pretty sure I have blueberry all over my face. So yeah. So I guess I like smoothies if we're doing that.
I'm Alex. I'm from Wellesley. I go to a different school though, but yes, same town. And I'm a senior, and I don't know. I like chocolate ice cream, I guess.
Clarissa, Sophie, Alex, any of you guys ever been before? Under the ocean, not sky type.
You kind of froze. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't really hear it.
I'll try again. How about this? Have you ever been scuba diving before?
I personally have been snorkeling, but I will admit I don't exactly like how fish looks, so it wasn't the best option, but I've been snorkeling in Cancun with my family.
Quick question. Why did you come to the scuba diving hangout if you don't like the way fish look?
Hey, I need to know if there's like any like deep sea weird animals. Like I need to know if there's a Loch Ness monster. Like these are the questions that need to be asked and answered.
You're scoping out the threat. That makes sense. But yeah, I've also been snorkeling and not scuba diving.
Same. Yeah, I haven't scuba dived. I want to though.
So, given you guys are all seniors, you know where you're going to school yet, or what the next step is, or you're lost, confused like I am in life?
I
I
would
have to go with the latter.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure exactly where to go. I'll be somewhere, you know? That's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun period where like a lot of people know where they're going to school. So like you get a lot of questions about where you're going to school, but I don't. So I don't know how to answer those questions.
Just wait till you're a senior in college and there's nothing after.
I thought like, you know, once you're done with college, you're like, oh, everything's figured out. I've gotten it. I've figured it out. But, you know, maybe that's
Larissa, I have zero idea how to be an adult, and I have approximately 2 months to figure it out. So it'll be a fun time.
See, I think that's when you bake some chocolate chip cookies and just watch Big Brother and call it out.
I'll try that.
I mean, personally, I think it's a great time to just come to the realization that there's no ultimate meaning to life and you just kind of do whatever whatever makes you happy, you know?
True. All right, shall we begin?
Yeah, I think we've probably culminated here in terms of who's doing it. Lucky for the AEP folks, so I think I'm pretty senior to all of you in life. So hopefully, even though you are already in school, you can, you know, gain some worldly wisdom as well from it. So quick background about myself, and I have a couple slides that we'll use as a cue. My name is Max McDonnell. I've been in the Army for 9 years, and a little bit of everything as an engineer officer in the Army. Most notably, I serve as a underwater deep sea diver. My goal for today is I actually don't want to talk about diving all that much, or the Army. The Army and diving to me is a platform for further discussion, and I want to make it applicable, you know, for the three seniors, both, you know, high school and, you know, for those of you in college as well. I don't care if you want to join the Army. I'm not trying to recruit you. If you have any interest in the Army, I'm happy to talk about that offline with you. But that's really in order to kind of make this mass appealing for everybody. I'm going to talk about kind of what I've learned through my time in the Army, and then try to make it applicable, to the group here today. I have opinions that I think are forged through my experience, and everybody is a product of their experience. And so there are things, that I believe that maybe you disagree with, and that's okay. But let's have those discussions, and we'll figure it out together. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you. I have in the Army, anytime you do something, you always going to start with like a propaganda video or something, right? And so I'm going to start with that to grab your attention, and then we'll go from here. All right. So how this goes.
Conducting military operations in this challenging environment is the Army diver. Divers are masters of their environment with exceptional physical and mental capabilities. To become a member of this small, elite force, you must pass tough, stringent, and challenging requirements. Trained in both scuba and surface supply diving operations, they are called upon to perform a multitude of underwater missions.
Some of the challenges we face being Army divers is working in very austere situations and conditions. We perform tasks such as salvage, underwater welding, cutting, and inspections.
As a diver, your duties and responsibilities may include inspecting, cleaning, and repairing watercraft propellers and hulls, installing and repairing underwater pipelines and mooring systems, conducting harbor salvage operations, and constructing or repairing ports and front facilities. Along with an interest in diving, this career field requires individuals who are also interested in mechanics and construction, who feel comfortable working in and around water in extreme conditions, have the ability to stay calm and solve problems while under stress, and possess a high degree of self-reliance and self-confidence. After successfully completing Army Basic Combat Training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, you will remain at that station and attend 3 weeks of Diver Phase 1 training. Phase 1 is designed to evaluate and select soldiers that demonstrate the aptitude and physical ability to graduate from Phase 2.
Phase 1, we did a lot of breath holding exercises, a lot of treading, just get comfortable in the water.
In Phase 1, you will learn the basics of diving physics, gas laws, medicine, decompression procedures, and diver line pull communication signals. Training also includes charting basic dives and instruction on in-water skills involving the use of a mask, snorkel, and fins.
The people that find the most success from Phase 1 to Phase 2 are the ones that don't quit.
Because of the nature of this work, to be successful, you will need to be in top physical and mental condition. The small percentage of soldiers who successfully pass Phase 1 will then move on to the rigorous second phase of training at the Naval Diving and Salvage Training Center in Panama City, Florida.
First 3 weeks of Phase 2 is when it's make or break. If you're mentally strong, you want to weed out the guys that are mentally weak. You don't want somebody out on the dive side that's going to quit.
In the next 26 weeks of training, you will learn advanced principles of scuba and surface applied diving operations, underwater cutting and welding, the use and care of hand and hydraulic power tools, how to handle and use explosives, and the operation and maintenance of a variety of diving and diving support equipment, to include the hyperbaric recompression chamber. After successfully completing advanced individual training, you will be awarded the second-class diver badge and be eligible for worldwide assignments as a member of an engineer unit.
All right, can you guys hear me okay? Somebody give me a yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So like I said before, I'm not trying to hurt you. I don't care if you want to join the Army or not. I've learned a tremendous amount through the Army, and it's my goal to share with you some of that. So then you can take that forward with you in whatever it is you're trying to do in life. So the way that I'm going to structure the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to take about 5-10 minutes, just kind of give you an overview. of where I've been in the Army, just so you understand my background. And then from there, I'm going to share with you kind of by category of kind of what I've learned. And I want to make it interactive. I'm going to date myself here, but for those of us who grew up in the 90s, if you went to the library in elementary school, they had those choose your own adventure books, right? And so if you remember, like you're on page 35 and it says, hey, do you want to go down, the scary cave or open the door, right? And then you turn to that page. So we're going to do that, right? So I have a variety of stuff. And so first off, Clarissa, Sophie, and Alex, I'm going to ask y'all, to pick a number of something that appeals to you, on the slide we're talking about. And I have kind of stories for each, and we'll do a deep dive, no pun intended, into that. And then if you have any follow-up questions, we can discuss. So it's really kind of what direction you want to go with that. If I was in your shoes, the three of you, or, for the AEP moderators as well, I think probably would be on the forefront of my mind is kind of the imposter syndrome and FOMO that we all have as we take the next step in whatever career we're going to do. So as you're looking at colleges and you're trying to evaluate where you want to go, or you're currently in college and you're trying to decide what field you want to go in, it's just the amount of opportunities are overwhelming. And so, hopefully we can work through some of that together. So originally from Northern California, I did not come from a military family whatsoever. There are people who go to West Point, which is the United States Military Academy, whose grandfathers and fathers went there, and it's a legacy tradition for them. I am not that person. I have no military affiliation whatsoever in my background. And the reason I went is I honestly did not know what I want to do after I graduated high school. And so it was an excellent opportunity for me to get an engineering degree and then become what's called an engineer officer within the Army. As an engineer in the Army, our role is to enable the maneuver for any sort of force, for the rest of the Army. So I started out my career in Hawaii as a platoon leader, had about 25 soldiers that worked for me, and I was what was called a route clearance element. So route clearance drives, 3 to 5 miles per hour looking for roadside bombs, and then they clear those bombs to allow the folks behind them to move forward on the route. From there, I transitioned to the horizontal side of engineering, which is anything that's built horizontally, so roads, drainage, concrete, things like that. And then after that, moved over to the Corps of Engineers, which is the public-facing side of the Army Engineer Regiment. And you hear a lot about the Corps right now. They're the ones who are building all the makeshift kind of COVID hospitals for the nation. And then most recently, I served as a commander of a deep sea dive detachment. I think you probably have a good idea, hopefully, of kind of what that would entail based off the video. Had the opportunity to go, the things I'm really proud of it, my military education, had the opportunity to go to Sapper School and the Joint Diving Officer course. And those will probably come, I'm not going to explain what those are now because they'll probably come up later in our discussion. So like I said before, it's going to be a choose your own adventure, right? So a lot of words, don't get distracted by the words, all right? But if I get a volunteer from either Clarissa, Sophie, or Alex, one of you want to step on the grenade here up front?
Or Woomy. Max, Woomy is another one of our seniors.
Oh, we have one more?
Yeah.
Who's the fourth one?
I am.
Who's I?
Woomy.
I'm sorry, say again?
Woomy.
Woomy, is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. Since you're the one on the net, you want to pick one of these that maybe you're curious about. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory, but anything that jumps out at you that you'd like to go into a little bit more.
I guess the fourth one, strength is derived through relentless pursuit of improvement. What have you done to improve the organization today? Do not let the uncle fighters.
Yeah. So first off, thank you for being brave and showing Clarissa, Sophie, and Alex up. So thank you for that. So I'm an adamant believer that you should try to work to continue to improve yourself and your organization every day. And that is different for any organization that you're a part of. But one thing I used to have written on my board as a commander is, what have you done today? And if you can't answer that question, then you're just living day to day and you're focusing on those short targets. You're not focusing out on the big picture. And so when we talk about ankle biters, ankle biter is kind of the camping term when you think of mosquitoes and ticks that bite your ankles like you're hiking, and that distracts you from the actual things that really matter in life, right? And so I've seen so many leaders in the Army that just focus on the day to day, and they lose track of the big picture that they're trying to accomplish, right? And so I think it's probably applicable to you in high school as well. Your day to day activity might consist of, I don't know, maybe soccer practice or your homework or whatnot, right? I'm not saying that doesn't matter, but if that's all you focus on, you lose track of where you're actually trying to drive your car to and drive your life to, per se. Same for those in college. So does that resonate with you at all, Wilmy, or make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Any follow-up questions from anyone else, or can I get another volunteer to pick another number here?
Yeah, I was wondering if we could talk about 6. I thought 6 was interesting.
Yeah. So, and I apologize because some of this might be a little leadership oriented, right? But I think regardless of your field, because you have signed up to be part of this program, to me, you're already trying to follow in the footsteps of trying to be a leader. So, fundamentally, leadership is not black and white. There are a lot of people who I think it is. There are tons and tons and tons of gray areas. And I personally believe that it's okay to be in that gray area, but you cannot do it without deliberately knowing that you are there. As a leader, you get paid to mitigate the risks that are presented in front of you, but it is impossible to actually eliminate it. So I'll give you an example. As a diver, we had the opportunity to send my folks up to Alaska. And as part of that, we had to pre-position our recompression chamber, which is a containerized apparatus that you saw in the video that puts divers back to depth if they were to get any kind of illness. And we had to pre-position it in Alaska. And in the Army, things are very, very property heavy, meaning that if you have a piece of property, it has to be properly signed off by someone else who takes responsibility for that. Otherwise, it could be lost or stolen. And so for me, one thing I wanted to do is I found a Coast Guard base in Alaska who was willing to look after our chamber when it arrived, because we weren't going to be there when it initially got there. And my chain of command could not believe that I wasn't going to have somebody there to receive it, and I was going to trust the Coast Guard, a whole nother service, to look after my equipment for me, right? But from my reasoning, it's impossible to eliminate the risk, right? If somebody wants to steal my 20-foot, container, it's going to happen regardless. The Coast Guard is not going to steal it. For me, it's a risk worth taking, and it's not worth sending my soldier 2 more weeks away from their family in order to just babysit, a piece of equipment that someone else could do for me. And so I'll pause there, Alex. I don't know if you have any follow-up questions about that.
No, not necessarily. I was just kind of curious about like what your personal experience with that one is, because it's an interesting kind of question now, like specific examples of that.
Yeah. So like I said before, I feel, I don't know anyone, parenting or home life situation, right? But I feel as you progress through life, a lot of people just subscribe themselves to bureaucracy, and it's just either this way or that way, but they fail to kind of look in the middle of where those 2 lines overlap. And so for me, you have to identify, if I do this, is the world really going to end, or do people just think it's going to end? And the world, I'll tell you right now, Alex, the world is very rarely ending. In my 20 months of command of my detachment, I think maybe only twice, was crap really going to blow up in our face and someone could have really actually gotten hurt, versus situations where people just think, things are a much bigger deal than they are. I'm going to pause there, and Wilmy, you're off the hook for now. Sophie and Clarissa, I'm coming for you. All right. And so this slide, and if any of these resonate with you and we didn't get to them, feel free and we can talk about them, at the end of the brief here. So, all right. So next thing I kind of learned in the Army is how to communicate. In the Army, you think it's a very bureaucratic and hierarchical-based organization where you can just yell at people and tell people what to do, but that's really not the case. You have to build a team. You have to build buy-in. Otherwise, you cannot accomplish your agenda. So with that as an introduction, Clarissa, can you please let me know if any of these, you're curious about, and we'll go from there.
Can we talk about 3?
Yes, thank you. That's my favorite one. I hate the word probably and should. All right. Whatever you're trying to do in life, Alex, when you go work at your consulting company in Portland and you're put on a project and someone asks you, what is the status of this? Are we good? Avoid the word probably or should. Good. We're probably okay. We'll probably have the aircraft to pick up our stuff when we're supposed to have it, or we should be there on time. You deal in facts, not in emotions. And for me, and it's not even just like be straightforward and be clear. It's, deal in the absolutes of what you actually know. And if you don't know what you're trying to do, then admit that and be like, let me put some time in this, get back to you. I'll give you the information you're looking for. But when people say probably or should, it's a cop-out. It's a way to not absorb responsibility for your own actions. It's a way to delegate repercussions, to a wider group, and not actually, be the one who owns the decision. And so I learned that, early on, as well as, if in front of a formation or a group of any kind of people, if you're a leader of a small team or even the high school club, it doesn't inspire confidence when you say, hey, we'll probably have the school dance, next Friday. Find out. Find out if you actually have your DJ schedule. I haven't been in high school for a long time, so I'm sorry that my example is probably bad. But find out and actually find out what you need to do to make things happen. So, any follow-up, Clarissa?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask if anyone
Sophie,
agrees with that?
you're up. Say again?
I'd like to hear if there are any counter arguments.
Yeah, I mean.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, not just like coming out. But isn't it kind of necessary to know like the emotions of the people that you're dealing with in order to understand how they'll like react to people, like or react to things? Like I'm just thinking in terms of like in the context of like the previous slide, like if you want to trust someone to like delegate responsibility to them, you need to know how they feel about the responsibility that's being delegated. I don't know. Just wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll bring you down to point number 5 on there. No, and please, when I say that deal in facts, not emotions, I'm not saying the emotions of people or the emotions of your team don't matter. I'm saying that in terms of the situation and the project, don't have an emotional reaction to the project. You don't really know, where you stand and what you're trying to do. Absolutely, the people that you are working with in your team matter more than maybe the project themselves. All right, and so that dovetails nicely into 5 there, where the people behind the mission matter as much as the mission itself. If you do not, I've seen so many people in the Army who had fantastic ideas, but they didn't build buy-in, both above them with their supervisor and with the folks that work for them, to actually get their ideas across the finish line. And so you have to know people, how they individually react. There are people who need constant feedback and they want to know that they're doing a great job or they're doing a bad job or how they can course correct. And other folks who say, just leave me alone, tell me what to do and I'll get you your finished product, when you need it. So going even further down that rabbit hole, one thing I did as a commander that I'm proud of is when I first took command from the outside, of the dive field, I didn't really know what we wanted to do as a team. I just knew we had to do something, but I didn't know what that something was. So I created a training conference, and I had all of my divers present for it by rank. We did it in kind of 3 different iterative groups, and basically said, you know, what are the things that we want to do and what are the things that we need to do? And there were a lot of ideas presented that I already had, but you know, if you don't care about who gets the credit for the idea, you know, humility can go a long way, and it's amazing what you can actually accomplish. And so by having these folks present their ideas, it just creates some buy-in for the ideas. You know, there is stuff like, hey, let's go to Alaska, you know, let's work, you know, let's do an underwater demolitions range. And we were able to do all that. And that was already stuff that I knew that we had to do, but by getting them to say and getting them to feel like they were involved in the process and knowing your people on that kind of emotional level, it was that much more successful. So I'll pause there because and let you rebuttal. I talked a lot there, but you know, curious if that scratches your itch in terms of clarifying what I meant by emotion.
I also do want to say, like, you kind of talked about how, like, yeah, like, you know, we should deal with our facts or whatever. But there are some times where you wouldn't actually fully know what you're doing, or you just have to kind of like go with the flow, or just like improvise and like kind of like live in the moment ish. I mean, like, yeah, I'm just saying that you can't always like really know every single thing about your situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The joke in the Army is that no plan survives first contact, meaning that your plan is only good on the first minute of the first day in which you execute it. And from there, it all goes to crap. And so I think you're definitely on the right track of thought there, that you have to be adaptive and you have to be flexible, you know, be prepared to, you know, whatever situation, you know, comes at you. I'll pause there and see if anyone has any. Go ahead.
I'm a little curious about like something you said earlier, which was you were talking about like pitching people's ideas, and like you were saying like, oh, like you can let people think what like about the credit, like you can let people take the credit for the idea that they might have had, even if you had already had that idea. And that just kind of like sparked for me the idea. I was wondering, what is your stance on sort of the inherent value of being like frank and like candid in leadership versus like the extent to which it's okay to like, I don't know, alter perceptions in a way that helps people work better together?
I think it depends on the person in which you're talking to. I had folks in the Army who I literally had to take figuratively, not actually literally, but figuratively, like take, you know, their body and like shake them and be like, why do you not understand what we are trying to do and be better? And for them, that was the kick in the butt they needed to actually perform. There were other folks that if I had done that, they just would have crumbled and cried, and they wouldn't have actually stepped up. And I had to sit down and be like, hey, like, you're doing a great job. You know, I appreciate so much of all the work that you've done in this project. But hey, here's some things that maybe you could think about doing differently. And so I think if you're on a team, you have to know the emotions and the personalities of the people behind their on your team. So one example I have for you is I actually, you saw at the end of the video that when you become a diver, you get awarded that dive pin, right? And so I had a situation with a soldier of mine who was just not meeting the standard in which they needed to be at. And so I actually pulled their pin and said, which is Army talk for like removing that qualification from them. And I said, you will get it back and you can become a diver again when you've done the things we've been telling you for the last 6 months. And for him, that was the kick in the butt that he needed, you know, that frank conversation, as you alluded to, you know, to actually step up and do a better job. There are other folks that if you had done that, that kind of extreme measure, it would not, you know, it wouldn't have resonated. And so I think you always have to read, you know, the battlefield. You always have to read the situation. And anytime you're talking upward to a supervisor, you have to understand the personality of that person. There are people who shy away from confrontation. And if you try to approach them in that way as somebody who's working for them, they're going to take it as, disrespectful. There are other people who want to embrace conflict. And if you are just a yes man or yes woman all the time, and you just, you don't actually have any organic ideas and you don't actually disagree with them on anything, they're going to think less of you because of that. And so you just have to understand and kind of gain that credibility, with whoever you're working in that situation. So does that answer your question or no?
Yeah. It's an interesting.
All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next slide here, the next thing I've kind of learned in the Army is how to plan, how to take a idea from just the beginning all the way out to execution, and some really kind of complex issues, where a lot of things can go wrong, and so I'll pause there. Sophie, I don't think we've heard from you yet, right?
Me? I was just talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it? I don't have my screen on. All right, so now you're also hooked in. All right, so I'm gonna go. I think did we hit all four of you? I think Clarissa, you already asked a question, right?
I forgot I was on mute. Yeah, I already asked the question.
All right. Okay. So we're gonna go to the Aep Mentor Group then. All right. So, Riley, you want to give us one here?
We lost Riley. She's gone.
Oh, she's gone. All right.
You knew you were gonna. I won't take
that. Yeah. All right. Well, how about you take one then?
All right. Let's see. Hard to choose. I think a lot about this at work, like kind of, I guess it goes along the lines of like being prepared for anything, but also like I like number 4, an 80% solution on time is better than 100% solution late. I'm wondering like how you would kind of apply that to, I don't know, what you do or about to life too.
Yeah, so I'll start with an example and then we can go into this philosophical discussion. So anytime I take my divers off base to a different installation, different country, different state, I have to get approval. I can't just go do it on my own. So I have to submit a training packet that goes up through my higher headquarters to demonstrate what we are doing, how what we are doing is training what we need to be training in order to be prepared to do our job as a diver. And then just kind of logistical and finance of how much it's going to cost and whatnot. And when I first started as a commander, I was trying to plan the entire mission before it even happened. The first job I ever did, we went out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and not Oklahoma, I'm sorry, Kansas. So we were doing inspections for Corps of Engineers, as well as removing debris from dams, doing some welding for them. And I was trying to plan the entire thing, every day of every hour of what we're going to be doing. And I spent so much time planning a mission, I almost missed the deadline to actually submit, the approval packet. And so what I learned through that is just get enough to give the decision point to your supervisor. So give them of what they need in their mission. No one cares about what you're doing day to day. They want to know the big picture. What risks are they accepting by letting you go out there? And what risk are they potentially going to have to brief upwards to their boss? And so I was able to go down from, it took me like 3 or 4 weeks, initially to plan a mission. So I could literally do it in probably a day or two. Whether I sent folks to Tulsa, Memphis, Alaska, Antarctica, Palau, Washington, Texas, I'm telling you, the packets to do that all kind of look the same. All I do is kind of change the picture, but diving is diving, and so when you are planning, I just need to give them the information of what they need, to understand that, the who, what, where, why, when, and how. And then from there, the rest of it will fall into place. Last slide, we spoke a little bit about, being adaptive and flexible. And even if you plan your whole 100% solution, it's not going to survive, right? So it's best get to 80%, do it on time. Don't even worry about the 100%. I actually came up with the line, people expand to the time they have. And then later, like 3 years later, I found out that some smart guy called Parkinson's had the same idea. But when you give people deadlines to do things, they will literally, for those of, you all still in school, how often do you wait till the night before, to write your essay or study for your test or whatnot? And I know I did, when I was at the academy as well as in high school. So, keep that in mind. People often don't need as much time as they say they do because they're going to wait till last minute anyway. So I'll pause there.
I actually have a question about that. I would love to hear how, over the years of like gaining the experience,
You broke up there, Clarissa. Say again.
I don't think that's my mic. I don't think
That's Alex. I think she's frozen.
Oh, I'm
having
sorry.
Lots of connectivity issues. I don't know what's going on.
I know.
It's very rainy where I am.
What was the question here?
I didn't catch the end of it. Oh, we lost her, I think. Liv, do you want to go?
Max, I'd love to hear about, yeah, I was just going to say, I'd love to hear about a time, we're talking a lot about being confident and kind of striving forward, even if you've got 80% of what could be 100%. Could you tell us about a time where you really doubted something or doubted yourself or a plan that you had put into place?
Yeah. Army engineer divers do everything that a normal engineer would do above water, but we do it all below water. So just like a normal Army engineer would blow up stuff using demolitions, we do the same stuff as you saw hopefully in the video underwater. And so one of the annual events that we have to do is train on underwater demolitions. And so as you can imagine, it is incredibly difficult to get the permitting approved to do stuff like that. You cannot just go in the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean and throw some dynamite or C4 in and do your range that you need to do, right? NOAA and the EPA and stuff will hem you up pretty bad for that, as they should. I'm actually a big environmentalist, so I'm actually not a big fan of underwater demo. But so with that said, the Army has a training facility about 5 hours north of Virginia in Maryland that we can do underwater demo on. And so I had been working for months to get this entire range set up. We were probably a month out. It's on a lake. It's on a freshwater lake that the Army maintains solely for training. There's nothing alive in that lake other than probably algae. And so, we're chugging along on our planning. We went and did our reconnaissance. We met with all the folks up there. And then out of nowhere, probably 3 weeks out, the Navy SEALs come up and steal our land. Because they are a higher priority unit than us lowly Army divers. They were able to use, their special SEAL trump card, and they took our resource away from us. So then I had a choice. I said, okay, I can cancel the range that I've already blocked off time for, or I can try to make something happen. And I'm proud to say we were able to execute the range, and we completely did a 180. And instead of going up to Maryland, we went off the coast of Virginia Beach, was able to get a boat from the Army. The Army actually has more boats than the Navy, ironically enough. And so we were able to get a boat from the Army, and we were able to work with the Navy to use their land off Virginia Beach in order to run the range. And going back in kind of communication and leadership a little bit, trying to push my agenda onto them and showing them of how it could be beneficial for their own organization, because no one wants somebody who just says, hey, give me a handout. So in terms of the Army boat people, they have requirements that they need to fulfill every quarter in order to train on their watercraft. And they don't have the opportunity to do that very often. So by me giving them my own training event, they were able to do a lot of their stuff that they need to do in terms of licensing people on their boats. And we're talking boats, big, several hundred feet, craft. These are not small, sailboats and whatnot. And then in terms of the Navy, engineer divers, similar to me and the Army divers, had not trained an underwater demo for a while. And so I was able to bring them onto our range, and they sponsored us on the Navy land because the big Navy would not work with me initially. So by having the Navy engineer divers help sponsor my range, we helped train some of them, and our whole range kicked off. We probably did 6 months worth of planning in 2.5 weeks. And so even if, going back to the beginning, even if you have your 100% solution, as we talked about last slide, plan, survive, first contact, right? It's all going to go to crap, on the first day of the, the first hour of the first day anyway. So you have to be flexible and adapt and overcome. I'm gonna do an alibi here, and I'm gonna talk about bullet number 3 myself, because that's something that is near and dear to me. And even though it's a little hokey, I'm sure everyone's bitten by a mosquito, but no one's been bitten by an elephant, right? And it's the little things in life that are gonna bite you in the ass. And the story I'd like to share with you is I had the opportunity as a young officer to go to what's called Ranger School. And Ranger School is marketed by the Army as a small unit tactics school. It's 60 days long, but you are starved, you're sleep deprived, and you carry about 100-pound packs over the course of those 2 months, while you're sleeping anywhere from 0 to 2 hours a day. And so it's a great weight loss training program as well. I'm not a big guy to begin with, but came out about 15 pounds lighter at the end of that. And so in each phase of the school, there's 3 phases. There's one in Georgia. There's 2 in Georgia. There's kind of a flat phase, and there's a mountain phase, and there's a swamp phase down in Florida. And you have to pass a graded leadership evaluation in each phase in order to move on to the next phase. And I proudly, and if you don't pass, then you have to redo that phase, which is terrible. And so I proudly, the school should have taken 60 days. It took me 118 days to get through. And the reason for that is I neglected the little things. As we went out on patrol, we have to line up all of our guys. If you're the leader who was assigned that day and you want to inspect them, you want to make sure they have all their ammunition. They want to make sure they have their camouflage on. And I let little stuff slide because I didn't want to be the guy who's like, hey man, like put on your gloves, or hey, like I need you to put, leaves, on your kit to help camouflage yourself. And so I let stuff slide. And because of that, I had to redo the phase while these guys who didn't do what they were supposed to be doing moved on to the next phase. And so I learned a tremendous amount about not only how to lead your peers, with their living self and kind of at their worst, but also just it's the little stuff in life that's going to get you. If you're applying to college, you can work on the entire application, but if you don't realize that you have to submit your application by X time, East Coast time, and you're on the West Coast, that 3-hour window is going to bite you. So I'll pause there if anyone has any follow-ups. If not, we're going to go on to, I think, probably the slide that you'll find the most interesting. Okay. All right. Can I get one more volunteer? I don't have the screen in front of me here, so I don't know. I'm trying to remember y'all's names by voice, so I've lost track. If I get a volunteer here, pick one of these if that jumps out at you.
Can you talk about number 4 more?
Yeah. Are you asking that because people tell you all your passion, do what you love?
Yes. Or also that you're just like,
okay.
There's so many directions that one can go. And I think you can learn something from your experience is something that I've come to see more.
Yeah. So like I said, I have some opinions that are maybe, I don't want to say unpopular, but unconventional, right? And so are a lot of people, including who've told me, like, hey, follow your passion, and if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? And that is great, but incredibly naive, and I think because of that, bad advice. At the point that even I'm at, and I'm going to project that all of y'all are at as well, you don't even know what your passions are yet. Sure, you might, when I was in high school, I loved to play soccer and I liked cross country, right? But I was never going to be a professional soccer player, right? If I followed my passion from elementary school, I'd probably have like a baseball card shop right now, because that was a big thing growing up in the 90s. Everyone would trade baseball cards at recess. And which is like not what I want to be doing. But people say follow your passion and do what you love. But the problem is that you don't even know what you love and what you want to do, right? Because passions develop on the fringes of work that you haven't even explored yet. So I know, I'm not sure what everyone's doing post-college or going into college, right? But I know Alex said she was going into consulting. I think it was medical, mainly medical consulting. There are so many facets and avenues that could dovetail into and explore opportunities that she hasn't even realized yet. I have a cousin of mine who was a consultant for years, and now she works in a pulp and paper company, and she just loves pulp and paper. I don't know what it is, but she just likes the idea of manufacturing paper and everything that goes into packaging and whatnot. But she had no idea she wanted to do that until she was able to work on a project through her consulting business. She did a consulting job with Kimberly-Clark, which is a big toilet paper manufacturer, and she didn't even know that was something that really appealed to her. And so what I will tell you is, instead of following your passions, just embrace saying yes. When you're given an opportunity, say yes to it, if you can, and see what becomes of it and see what you like about it. But put decisions on a pedestal. As you're in college or you're looking at going to college, it seems like, the degree that I pick, the passion that I'm following in college is going to dictate the rest of my life. And I'm telling you that is just plainly not true, because you don't know where things are going to lead. And if you think that you're going to open up door A, that's going to go to door B, that's going to go to door C, that's incredibly arrogant, because it will, I guarantee you, not go that way. Every opportunity that I've had that's been closed on me has led to a different opportunity that I was even more excited about, that I didn't even know I could do. So I'll pause there if you have any follow-up. Okay. Anyone else want to pick one of these, and then go ahead.
I'm wondering, along those lines, what advice would you have for people either like leaving high school or leaving college, in terms of, the pressure of trying to get a job that maybe looks good, or to follow a certain path that's expected, versus trying to do something you're interested in if you're not even really sure where to go?
Yeah, so everything comes down to managing risk. And when you have a passion mindset, i.e., do what you love, you're looking at the world from a viewpoint of what can the world offer me. Instead, I would challenge you to think of it from a craftsman mindset of what can I offer the world? What skill can I develop that is so good that whatever organization cannot ignore me, right? And you can do that in any field, right? If you want to be an English major, you can be such a great publicist or what have you that, Random House cannot ignore you, and you'll be so marketable there. But when you try to put yourself in a cookie cutter box of, I'm going to do the things that look good, you're not being true, to the actual process. And so instead, I would challenge you to build, either whether it's soft, or actually a hard skill set. If you want to be a scientist or a coder, or you want to be a historian, be so good at that thing that whatever organization you're trying to work for, that you cannot be disregarded. Does that make sense, Lydia?
Yeah, definitely.
Would anybody disagree? I welcome conflict here.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I would love to hear your thoughts on there's a book recently, I think, I'm not going to remember the title, but it was about how being a generalist is a really strong skill set that someone can bring, and not having like that fine-tuned, like, one, I'm really good at this thing. So I guess I would just love to hear your thoughts on that. And I'm assuming you would likely counter that.
No, I actually wouldn't. I both would and I would not counter it. So going into my own background a little bit, I'm a generalist. As an officer in the Army, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I'm not, if you ever read Good to Great, I'm not the hedgehog who is good at one thing. I'm the fox who can do a lot of things, right? I do it all kind of crappy, but I can do a lot. The problem is when you do that and you're applying for jobs, you're applying for organizations, people don't always know what to do with you, right? Because you have all this great kind of vague management leadership experience, but you don't have the hook technical skill to kind of get yourself in the door. So I think it's fine to be a generalist kind of, I want to say maybe later in life, but early on, I think it's very challenging. And I'm facing that right now, right? I have not, so full disclosure, my last day in the Army is Tuesday of next week. I have a huge amount of leadership, management, risk mitigation, change management experience, right? But how you translate that to the civilian workforce is challenging. If instead I had, I'm an expert, I don't know, I'm an expert coder or something, right? And I could use that to get myself in the door, and then from there pivot to the generalist kind of positions, which is where I ultimately want to be. I think you're better set up. But please rebuttal.
No, I think that makes sense. I see the point. I don't have a formulated rebuttal at this moment, but yeah.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to agree.
I guess
or
the one thing I would say.
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I guess.
No, hit me.
Like, skills can be learned, and ways of learning, or like dispositions, are a little harder. Like, I think some people are predisposed to either engage with work a certain way or have a certain thinking mindset that then can be applied to skills, is what I would say to that, I guess.
Yeah. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that because of how people think they are better learning, different skills of different types, so like there's some people who are just quote unquote like not math people, and there's some people who are just like not great spellers. Are you talking like that, or help me understand what you're saying?
No, I guess more simply, like you were saying, like really have that fine-tuned skill set. I guess my side of it, how I think of things, is you can learn the skills at a different position that you need. Like that those are teachable. Those can be learned if you're willing to learn them.
No, I agree with that. As I was telling the folks earlier on the call, I meant to share this earlier, but I forgot. I am the world's worst swimmer. Terrible. I got a B- in the mandatory survival swimming class that West Point has, and I'm incredibly proud of that B- because I had to work really, really hard for it. I trained for a year to become a diver. For those of you who are good at swimming, you would laugh at me. I look like a plow going through the water. But what I am is not, I think, a halfway decent leader, and I have a good head on my shoulder, and I have a perspective, and I know how to resource opportunities. And so the Army was able to teach me, how to be a diver, as long as I kind of met the baseline criteria. So I do agree with you. I think it's kind of ultimately, I don't want to use the word balance because I don't always like that word, but there's some give and take there, if that makes sense. Okay, any other ones? I'll open it up here to anybody if any of these other ones jump out at you. If not,
could you talk about number 6? I really like that one because, I think that one's important.
people are destined to repeat the same mistakes and same actions if they don't have anyone to kind of help course correct, right? And that course correction can be either external or just through your kind of internal reflections, right? So even on this, I didn't have my act together, but I wanted to create like a SurveyMonkey link that I was going to push out to all you guys to give me feedback on my own presentation here, right? Because how can I get better, you know, as I speak to people if I don't have the feedback from others. And so always, you know, try to solicit feedback from folks you work with or your supervisors or even, you know, people who are, you know, work for you. But recognize the contract that comes with that and the humility that you have to demonstrate, and yet you can't take it personally. People are going to be afraid to give you feedback if you don't take it in stride and you don't use it as an opportunity to grow. If you're not willing to embrace or, you know, consider feedback or take the time to reflect on what it is you're doing, you're just a hamster who's just, you know, just chugging along, which is fine, but ultimately you don't have a growth mindset. You have a very narrow perception, you know, on things. And I'm sure we've all seen people who are stuck in their ways. I myself, I'm not wed to anything on, you know, in these things I've learned in the Army. You know, and these will continue to evolve over time as I get external feedback. You know, I reflect on my experiences moving forward. What we do in the Army, after every operation we do, it's called an after action review. An after action review is just an opportunity for the whole team to get together and just reflect on, here's what we did well, here's what we didn't do well. And it can be very structured, unstructured, but usually just takes the form of, you know, positive and negative. Here are the things that, hey, we forgot X piece of equipment. And okay, so if we did that, why did that happen? Let's pull the thread a little bit. And so let's establish what the actual root cause is, and then we can move forward and, you know, make sure that doesn't happen again. Or, you know, what was a great tactic that someone implemented? I was on a job about 6 months ago where we were salvaging a barge, and we were trying to do it the traditional way where there's all these holes in the bottom of the barge and you use, you know, kind of plugs and you know, rubber and whatnot to try to prevent water from leaking in. And I had a soldier who, you know, as we're kind of talking about how bad this operation is going, he's like, why don't we just wrap it like a present with a tarp? And so we literally dove down there, put a giant tarp underneath the barge. And I think I might have a picture of it. Oh well, I do not. That's okay. You know, it worked great. And if we hadn't created that platform for him to give, you know, feedback and reflection, we probably still would be down there right now. So I'll terminate this slide. I appreciate it. I'm happy to. I don't know how long, you know, you guys are committed to this coffee hour. I think it was like an hour, and we've already gone a little over. So I will pause there and back over to the AEP crew, you know, to see if you want to open up for general questions or see where you want to take it from here. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys today. I give you tremendous credit both on the staff of the organization as well as the seniors who called in today, because the fact that you're willing to negotiate, you know, with each other and try to embrace different cultures and challenge your own assumptions of the world, I think means you're, you know, well postured for success. So, you know, I thank you for that, and I thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Max. This was great. I think we had a few people who had to leave at 5, but great feedback from everyone. I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot of different things that I didn't know that I would learn other than scuba diving.
Does anyone have any questions for Max? I feel like we hit a ton about leadership and about some of his experience. Is there anything that you guys are left wondering?
I think we just have Wumi left. I think we lost everybody else.
I guess I have one question about the Army itself. Like, is that any place you can work in the Army that doesn't really require you having to, like, you know, do all this intense training about, you know, fighting, like being like a soldier, stuff like that?
You're asking if it requires a lot of intense training, or help me understand, you broke up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I was asking like, is there any part like of the army that doesn't require, like,
Oh, does not.
yeah.
Are you? Never mind. Yeah, I mean, the army is the largest bureaucracy in the world, right? So we have a tremendous amount of jobs available to everybody. There are people who all they do is they push paper around, and then we have folks like myself who do more engineering stuff. We have folks who literally all they do is walk around the woods, and then we have other folks who they type on computers and they do data analytics and all sorts of stuff. So we even have like a space contingent, and all they do is analyze the weather, and they're not out there doing intense training. So there's something for everybody.
Wumi, can I ask why, like, where did that question come from?
No, it's just I feel like around me, I've just like been hearing about the army. Like someone called my mom the other time from the army, and was talking about scholarships and like if I joined the army, but like I don't have like they were talking about how like I don't really have to like be fighting or whatever. So I'm just like considering my options and like just yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's something for everybody. That we have dentists, we have X-ray technicians, we have there's something for everybody if that's something you're interested in. The baseline kind of training that you have to go through to kind of, I don't want to use the word indoctrinate, but to give everybody the opportunity, to learn how to be a soldier. Once through that, and you actually learn individual craft. But yeah, there's something for everybody, and they have different degrees in the hierarchy of kind of intensity, and there's everything from the 0 end of the scale all the way to 10, and so there's a niche for everybody. I probably didn't sell it very well yet, but
I have a more organizational question with the army itself. Does the bureaucracy of it ever make it feel less collaborative, even though like so much of what you do is like you and your team? I guess those things really come to tension in my head generally, so I would love to know what you think.
The bureaucracy is frustrating, but for me, I relish and I really enjoy finding ways to circumvent the bureaucracy. How can I push my agenda on my higher headquarters without them knowing that I'm doing that, right? My wife's laughing at me in the other room right now. I think that's awesome, right? Like it's like a game, right? Like, so you don't realize this, but after this conversation, you know more about Army diving than 99.9% of the Army, and you guys don't know too much about it, right? We are such a, you're talking to a unicorn right now. You don't understand that, but like there's 130 in a 450,000 Army, right? So no one knows what we do. And because of that, we get disregarded. People don't know how to use us. People don't know how to apply us. For me, like, how can I find opportunities? And then how can I trick the Army into thinking it was their idea to then let me do it, right? So the bureaucracy is frustrating, but I don't think it's any worse than elsewhere. You just have to find ways to, if you can get your boss to think that it was their idea, you can do anything you want. So I hope that answers your.
Yeah, I love it. I love the creativity. I love the honesty. It's a cool perspective. I like it.
We lost all of us. Okay, though. I appreciate you ladies sticking around.
Thanks so much for this. I do have to run to get something at 5:30, but this was really interesting.
That's fine. I think we're probably good, Leah. If anyone has any follow-up questions, I'm happy to help out. I thank you for what you're doing or trying to do. And I wish you the best of luck, with this endeavor moving forward. So.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much,
Max.
Thank you.
Bye.